Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the baseball podcast. It's been, I don't know, like 2 weeks or something. And
Yeah,
today
we
we're
took a
joined.
nice little Christmas break,
Yeah, exactly.
For the
Um,
birth. It was the birth of,
Oh, Jesus.
you know?
yeah, that's the big news, really. We now have a soundboard, and
Yeah, I've
we're
debuted our
we're
soundboard.
we're idiots and we're obnoxious, so we will probably be overusing this. But ready?
True.
Here's where it all comes around. If you don't like it, feel free to tweet at us at the baseball pod 2 or email us at thebaseballpod@gmail.com
Yeah,
and
but
let us know how you feel.
I have to say, if you have a lot of criticism, I don't want to hear anybody saying, this. Like, we have a recording of some of our early feedback, and they said,
I despise him.
so, yeah, so what I would have to say to that, okay? Again, this is a recording. This is what I sent back. I said,
Take it easy.
So, we're going to be trying this soundboard thing. I have some good sounds. Some of them, a lot of them are from The Sopranos. Many of them are from Seinfeld. There's some couple of baseball inside jokes that I'm hoping you guys will enjoy. That we'll try to work in. So,
ready? And if you have sound ideas that we should be using,
yes,
feel free to let us know.
yeah. So tell us what sounds you want to hear on the soundboard, and they should be sounds that people will listen to them and they'll say,
Oh, Jesus.
So,
we're obnoxious, but hopefully you will appreciate our obnoxiousness, obnoxiosity.
So we're doing a little bit of an impromptu podcast here. Partially because I wanted to try out the soundboard, but also our boy Shawn Spradling had a little bit of a kind of a flood of World Baseball Classic news over the past couple days. He released his power rankings, which should I read them off?
Go
I
ahead.
think I retweeted them, but you know what? I'll read them off. So Shawn, who is pretty much the foremost across the board World Baseball Classic authority, that's what we call him. He released his official power rankings. Now that
start at the bottom and work your way
we'll
up.
start at the bottom, the fun teams. Now that teams' rosters are starting to get released a little bit, with the exception of a team like China, you can actually start to rank these teams and not just like, well, they could have this guy. So starting at the bottom, we have the illustrious China. I don't think China has released a roster yet at all, but there's not a lot of hope for that roster being good, even when it does come through, because China is just not much of a baseball country. Up next, in 19th place, we have the Czech Republic. The Czech Republic, they kind of had their moment in the sun, but at the end of the day, they're, again, another underdeveloped baseball country, but they appear to be on the upswing. 18th, Ethan, I hate to tell you this, Australia. So Australia, it's not looking good, buddy.
I know.
They're probably, a little bit of an also-ran. But you know what? There's a couple of teams ahead of them that Australia could surprise them. For example, 17th, we have Nicaragua, who just got a couple of big commitments that we will discuss, with Shawn when he comes on. Great Britain, who we got to break a little bit of news about. We talked to Gabriel Rincones Jr. on our previous episode, and we more or less officially broke that he will be DHing for Great Britain. So that's exciting for us, not for anybody else. Other people, they look at it and they say,
Oh!
So 15th, we have Taiwan. AKA sometimes Chinese Taipei, sometimes ROC, Taiwan. A country that needs to get its naming straight in sports events. Every time I watch, ROC is actually Russia. My bad. At the Olympics, because Russia's banned, so they send the Russian Olympic Committee. And that's the sort of thing.
Because it's somehow different that way.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing that I look at and I say,
How much more betrayal can I take?
That's how I feel about that. So 14th, we have Panama, home of former Phillies catcher Carlos Ruiz, as well as, I think, Carlos Lee, who I'm sure is way too old to play, but still a fun
I think he's
name.
on their coaching staff. He might be their manager.
Yeah,
he's on their coaching staff.
The El Caballo coaching staff.
Yeah.
Notably missing from this list, a team that I do not even believe made a effort to be in the tournament, but they are a country, Sweden, which is the homeland of a certain player who I happen to be a big fan of. Well, I actually was able to. Again, I got a recording.
Well, ready. I'll set it up for you.
Yeah.
Tom, what's this guy's name?
Well, Ethan.
His name is Dan Arnold!
So, yeah, Sweden not present on this list, but in 13th we have.
But they would have a heck of a second baseman.
That's true, and
His name is Dan Arnold!
right. So in 13th, another Ethan favored team, and this has always been a fun team. Israel has had a couple of. I think the last World Baseball Classic, they made it a little bit of a wild ride for their fans.
They finished in 6th place.
Yeah, above them in 12th, you have Canada. They do not have Joey Votto. According to Shawn, I think last time we went on the podcast, Joey Votto was not happy with the way the last World Baseball Classic went, and he said he was never going to play again.
Well, I guess we should say they probably won't have Joey Votto. I don't think there's any definitive news either way, but we're operating under the assumption they probably won't have Joey Votto, but I'm pretty sure they'll have Freddie Freeman. So
right, and if Freddie Freeman wanted to be the exclusive first baseman on the team, and then Joey Votto got on, Freddie Freeman might say,
How much more betrayal can I take?
So Canada, and in 11th, this is a little bit of a surprise. This team is a lot better than most people were probably predicting. Italy. So Italy has a number of, I think they got a number of major and minor league players. There's a lot of Italian Americans who committed to play for Italy this time around. So they look pretty good.
They just took a bit of a loss. They had Nick Vespi of the Orioles on their roster, and he just underwent surgery. So I'm assuming that takes him out of the running. But it's a lot of guys like that, a lot of guys that we're not super familiar with in the major league level, but they're major leaguers.
Right. They found Nick Vespi, they got him on the horn, and they said,
Take it easy.
This World Baseball Classic. So in 10th, we have the Netherlands, represented on Twitter by our boy Seb Visser. So
thanks again for coming on the show, Seb.
Yes, Seb, as always.
Wait, ready? I've always wanted to say this. By friend of the show, Seb Visser.
Oh!
All right. So, Netherlands, always a strong team, but there's a lot of strong teams coming through this year. So, in 9th, we have Colombia. I actually can't think of anybody who's on Colombia off the top of my head, so I'm gonna pass that over to you.
Jonathan India, Elias Diaz, Sandy
I think
Leon.
India's up in the air, isn't he?
Whether or not he actually plays is up in the air, but he's on their preliminary roster.
Okay.
They have a lot of Luis Patino, Gio Urshela, a lot of role players. So Howard Ramirez is pretty good. So I think they're a strong team. I don't know if they're quite a top tier team, but they'll be good. And they were super exciting last year. They had Tito Polo, which is like an all time name.
Right. Yeah.
So they should be exciting. Yeah.
Okay. So in 8th, and this has been pretty much from the word go, a team that could be one of the worst teams in the tournament or one of the best, Cuba. And we will be talking, because Shawn broke a lot of Team Cuba related news over the past couple of days. Cuba, we discussed this with Shawn on the last appearance he made, that Cuba was going to be, using American players now, like players who, I think they're just
MLB players.
Yeah, they are they're defectors. Yeah. So the issue for Cuba has been that while they have opened their arms to some of these MLB players, the MLB players have not necessarily reciprocated. So, for example, a guy like Yuli Gurriel apparently has a lot of influence and is not going to be playing. So that has affected Cuba's roster. Yeah, in 7th,
it's very divisive.
Yeah, it's political. It's off-field things.
Right. But we'll get into that a lot more with Shawn.
Yeah. So in 7th, we have Korea, who I'm excited to see, because Korean baseball is one of my favorite versions of baseball, because they love nukes they bat flip. They love like showmanship, and it's kind of a shot in the arm because when you watch like American baseball, you get like these old guys who are like, yeah, when you hit a home run, you put your head down and you circle the bases, you sprint. You don't show up the pitcher because the pitcher might look at you and say,
I despise him.
and then he might hit you in the head with a fastball, which is evidently a commensurate response. So, you watch U.S. baseball and there's still a lot of that. And then you watch like KBO highlights and these dudes hit like flyouts to the warning track and they flip the bat like 45 feet and like dance around the bases. Sometimes they step on a rake, but who doesn't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's also still fun.
Yeah. And they are also, they're one of the best leagues in the world, KBO. It's probably USA, then it's probably MLB, then NPB, and then KBO, right?
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, unless you want to count like winter leagues, but a lot of the good winter leagues are using major league players. So, that kind of sort of doesn't count. But
right.
Above Korea, another country with a lot of exciting baseball players in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico, for those of you who are worried, what if the United States doesn't make it? If Puerto Rico makes it, we still get to take credit for that. So, don't be worried.
Puerto Rico is a bit of a firestorm, too. Shawn put up his rankings, and Puerto Rican fans got really upset. I shouldn't say all of them, but a lot of Puerto Rican fans got really upset with him because they thought he had him low. And he basically pointed out, look at their roster. It's not as deep as you think it is. They have some stars, but, who knows what's going on with Carlos Correa. And, they just don't have the depth as a team like the U.S. or Japan or something like that. And a lot of Puerto Rico fans do not want to hear that. So,
right.
Yeah, so we'll see what time bears out. I think Shawn's right, but we'll see what happens.
Right. In fifth, and this is a surprise to me because this team usually reads a little bit more like Puerto Rico does this year. Mexico. Mexico does have some stars who have played for them over the years, and they have good baseball in Mexico, but they always seem like they're a little bit of a top-heavy roster come World Baseball Classic time. Like, they'll have, like, 3 or 4, like 5 guys who are like, okay, those are legit stars. And then it starts to be like, okay, wait a minute, who is that? Like they're left fielders, like some rando who plays in the Mexican League. You're like, I don't know who that is. Or like,
right.
The corpse of Jorge Cantu like rises from the dead to play for Mexico. So Mexico put together a good roster this year. They're ranked 5th. You have anything to add about Mexico?
No, I think Shawn's right. I think Mexico's really good. They have super deep pitching, and I think their lineup's going to be a lot deeper than it was last time. They've gotten commitments from some more role player kind of guys like Rowdy Tellez that they struggled to get last year.
Hey, listen, don't trash Rowdy Tellez, okay? He's a Victus guy.
I love him, man.
I owe him at least a little bit of the paychecks that I've earned over the years.
I am upset with him because I wanted him to play for Israel because he's Jewish, but I mean, he's a good player. But yeah, like last tournament, they've kind of filled out their infield with guys like Luis Cruz. You know what I mean? Like Brandon Laird, like also Rens. I don't think it's going to be the case this time around. Esteban Quiroz kind of, he can hit a little bit, and Rowdy Tellez and stuff like that. So, and Alejandro Kirk is the one last like big commitment they're waiting on. But it seems from what Shawn has told me that they're that Kirk is leaning towards playing. So if they can get him, I think they're in a really good shape. But who's ahead of Mexico?
Head of Mexico is the hill that I have chosen to die on this World Baseball Classic. I'm rooting for the U.S. because I am American, but my team that I look at, and I really like them, Venezuela. You know what? A lot of my own teammates are going to be happy to hear that because they are all from Venezuela, and they bleed Venezuela. Like at Victus, we have knob stickers, and some of them are countries' flags. And I brought a bunch of Venezuela ones. And dude, it's on everything. Like the one guy put it on his catcher mask. Like they love this stuff. They love their country, and they hopefully will be really happy to hear that Venezuela is sending a little bit of a bomb squad this year. They're kind of the only team that I think has a realistic shot at knocking off any of the big 3. Like Mexico and Puerto Rico are pretty good. Korea is always good, but at the end of the day, I mean, like the top 3 teams they're putting together like super teams, like straight up. Like Japan is going to be all the best players from NPB. USA is all stars at virtually every single position. Dominican Republic is all stars or former all stars like everywhere. Venezuela is kind of the only team with the firepower to stand up to that. So I really like Venezuela. I'm kind of pulling for them in a way. And as I have said on Twitter, and as Shawn has quoted me, I will continue to die on this Venezuela hill, and I hope you guys will join me.
You're recruiting now. This is your Alamo.
Yeah.
Well, Venezuela. I'm sorry to tell you, Venezuela was just dealt a little bit of a blow, seemingly. But we'll get into that with Shawn. So anyway, where does Shawn have the rest? We know it's Japan, Korea, or Japan, the Dominican Republic, and the U.S. But where does Shawn have them?
All right, so this is where the real controversy is, because I think everybody knows these are the top 3 teams, but the breakdown, who's 1 and who's 2, you know? So 3, in 3rd place, the team with the best drip in the World Baseball Classic by a mile, in my opinion, is Samurai Japan. So Samurai Japan, they're sending, again, a hell of a team. I mean, they have Otani, they have Yu Darvish,
Lars Nootbaar.
They have Nootbaar. Yeah, it's a guy with one of the most Japanese names of all time, Lars Nootbaar. They're sending a really, really good team, and Nootbaar might be a guy who you're like, who? His stats are pretty good. He puts up pretty good numbers. But my understanding is he's one of those guys who puts up like elite peripherals. So he's kind of just like a breakout waiting to happen.
Yeah, I think he mashes righties too. So even if they just platoon him, that's super useful.
Yeah, he was one of the few players in the wild card round who gave the Phillies any sort of trouble this past postseason. So we saw a lot of Nootbaar and what he can do. So Japan is sitting in 3rd, which is only because the Dominican Republic and the United States are probably 1 and 2 the greatest teams ever put together.
Yeah.
And the USA's pitching staff is a little bit thin, but only really in comparison to the Dominican Republic.
Right. So, it's a staff loaded with stars, but it's just, they're
not loaded with...
The U.S. ace is Kershaw, who's a little kind of on the downswing of his career. He's still good, but he's not what he used to be. And the DR has like Sandy Alcantara, that kind of thing. So it's like, but then again, the U.S. offense is probably better than the DR offense. So it's, Shawn, I remember he texted me and he was like, I want your thoughts on my power rankings before I put him out. And we were talking about it. And he was like, I can't figure out where to put the U.S. and the DR. Like they're so close. And I think he's right. You could put him 1 or 2. And people are going to get on you because they have their opinion, but I don't think you're wrong either way. Like they're both
right.
They're both incredible, but
this is the hardest one to rate. And usually that's not the case. Usually kind of like in the middle is where it gets murky. And like, some of these are murky. Like again, Cuba could go anywhere depending on, who commits. But so in number 2, and Shawn refers to this more as 1B than anything else, it is, unfortunately for us, the United States of America. The United States of America, number 1 in our hearts, to be fair, and that's what matters. But like we said, the U.S.'s pitching staff is just, it's really good. It's, probably the 2nd best, maybe the 3rd, because Japan has really good starting pitchers. But at the end of the day, the United States put together a great pitching staff. They just didn't put together the staff that the Dominican Republic did. Right. The Dominican Republic is the most loaded team I think I've ever seen across the board. So the U.S., amazing hitters. Their lineup is better than the Dominican Republic. And I don't think that it's controversial. Like, I would give the U.S. pretty solid advantage, unless people start backing out. Like, even without Harper, they put in, Kyle Tucker.
Yeah, Kyle Tucker,
like,
oh no.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, cool. Dominican Republic is 1A. They are ranked 1 on the power rankings. And honestly, I do think I have to agree. I kind of like the U.S. not just being the favorite, although they are one of them. Because, like when the U.S. won it last time, they made a couple of those games were nail biters. But at the end of the day, it's like, the U.S. probably should win it. So I'm happy to see that the Dominican Republic put together an absolute juggernaut of a team that the United States is going to be hard pressed to go up against, as did Japan, frankly.
Yeah, it should be the most exciting WBC we've seen, and hopefully it's a sign of things to come with teams pulling out all the stops to put together their rosters and players being the most invested in the tournament they've ever been. So hopefully that's what happens.
Right.
But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy our interview with Shawn, and we have a lot of great WBC talk, and we'll be having him on again leading up to the tournament. We'll try to keep having him on as much as we can, and make sure to go follow him everywhere on Shawn_Spradling. Welcome back to the Baseball Podcast. We're here with Shawn Spradling to talk a little WBC. Shawn, why don't you just tell us what's been going on lately, the biggest of news?
Oh man, there's been plenty. I don't even know where to start. From Cuba having their official 50-man submitted to Lars Nootbaar being confirmed on Team Japan. It's been a crazy last few weeks.
But yeah, you know what? The World Baseball Classic is starting to look like a tournament that is actually going to happen now. You know?
Yeah, it didn't until recently, but
right.
Yeah, for a little while there was a lot of like, well, we know that Cuba has alleged that they will be sending a team. We'll see. Yeah.
Well, but even with Cuba, right? So there was the back and forth of they never used MLB players. Now they're going to let MLB players play, but who's going to get into it? And now they finally released their roster. Shawn, why don't you tell us about who's on it and who, more importantly, isn't on it?
Right.
Yeah, that's probably even more what people want to hear than the people that are on it. Because when everybody heard, well, for a long time, if you were on Twitter talking about Team Cuba for the WBC, everybody was saying like, oh, Team Cuba sucks because they don't have any MLB players, which isn't necessarily true. They've always still done decent in the WBC. Like they made it all the way to the final in 2006. But the team is now allowed to have MLB players, MLB affiliated players on Team Cuba for the national team for the first time in history. The U.S. passed a license for them to be able to play. So after that was announced, everybody was like, oh my gosh, Jose Abreu, Yordan Alvarez, Raisel Iglesias, like all of these massive players are going to play. They're going to be the best team in the tournament, which also isn't true. It's somewhere in between because a lot of people still forget like, oh, these players left that country because they hate their country or like have had a really hard time getting to play baseball in another place.
They hate the regime, not so much.
Yeah, I apologize. That's what I meant. The government.
No,
they
you're
don't
fine.
hate their country.
I would assume that most people knew what you meant. You know, I don't think people are going to be like, oh, really, dude?
Yeah.
That would be a little silly.
If you talk to like Cuban fans on Twitter, they're like, yeah, these players love their country. Like, I want to see our team succeed so bad, but like, I also don't want to support our government. And the team is basically run by the government. So they're very conflicted. But all that being said, the highlight players that we'll see on Team Cuba, Luis Robert, Yoan Moncada, they'll both be on the team, both on the White Sox. The fun one that I don't think a lot of people realize, Yoenis Cespedes is going to be playing for Cuba.
Owner of Chandler Bats.
Yep, it's going to be so fun to see him play. I haven't watched – I mean, no one's watched him in years, at least in the U.S. So that'll be fun.
Was he playing somewhere else?
Well, right now he's playing in a winter league. It's blanking right now. Is he playing in the Dominican Winter League?
I don't know.
We could look it up. Let's find out.
I don't know. He's playing somewhere, but there's some other role players on there, right? Like Andy Ibanez and
Arispel Arubarena.
Dude, all-time name.
All-time name.
I like how it's like a circle around his jersey. It's the greatest. So, Shawn, in light of that, I know you put out power rankings, and I know that we kind of dreamed on, what if they get Yordan Alvarez? What if they get Jose Abreu? They didn't get those guys, but also they look better than they've been in a long time because they do have a lot of guys like Andy Ibanez and Luis Robert and better than, teams they've fielded in the past. Where do you have them now? Do you have them making it out of pool play? Remind us of the pool and tell us what you think is going to happen.
Yep. So their pool, let me pull up my power rankings really quick, see if I can get that pulled up. Because their pool is going to be Pool A off the top of my mind. It's Cuba. It's in Taiwan, so Taiwan will be there. the Netherlands, and who am I forgetting? There's 2 others. Italy.
Are they in there with Korea?
No,
Korea's with Japan. I know it's Italy, Netherlands, Cuba.
Panama.
Oh,
Panama's not insignificant. Like, I don't know if they're as good as Italy and the Netherlands, but they're not bad. They're gonna have like Johan Camargo, Edmundo Sosa. I think some relievers. Like, they're not an insignificant country at all.
Justin Lawrence, they'll have a couple pitchers, so they're decent. I mean, I'd really like that pool because I think we talked about this last time. I think it's the most equal all across the board. I could see any 2 teams finding a way to like come up with a win and get out of the pool. I think I still have Cuba hitting their way out of the pool just because they do have a couple pretty solid hitters. And I don't know if we talked about this last time, but I think I messaged you about it, Ethan. They have a couple relievers that I don't think American fans are aware of that play in the NPB. There are 3 of them that are like 3 of the best relief pitchers in all of Japan. Like 2 of the best closers and 1 of the best other pitchers. Yariel Rodriguez, Livan Moinelo, and Raidel Martinez. They all have ERAs of 1.15 or lower, and they all have K per nines of higher than 9. Like, they're nasty, all of them. Livan Moinelo, he's not a closer, but he had a 14.9 K per 9 rate in 2022.
Okay, so
that people don't
they got some
out.
Relief pitchers.
Yeah, that'll play.
Yeah.
So because of that, I think that'll get them out of the pool round. If they might go with like an opener. They do have a couple MLB arms, like Roanis Elias, and I'm trying to pull up their team right now.
Is there Roberto Hernandez on here? Is he the one from like the guy who used to be Fausto Carmona, or is this a different Roberto Hernandez?
I think he's Dominican, that guy.
I mean, that's a good baseball story, though. The man who was secretly somebody else.
Yeah, the artist formerly known as Fausto Carmona.
Yeah. It's a similar story with Leo Nunez. You know, the artist formerly known as Leo Nunez on the Marlins.
So, Shawn, is that about what you expected to happen? Not superstars, but a lot of good depth players and a guy like Luis Robert and Yoan Moncada?
Yeah, I think so. I think the big names when they were announced were Luis Robert and Yoan Moncada. After that, I didn't really expect many others. A lot of people asked for the Astros players, but I think I tweeted this out. Anybody that's connected with Yuli Gurriel is not going to play in the WBC for Cuba. He is like one of the biggest names ever in Cuban baseball. And I was talking to some Cuban fans. They said like, he has massive influence, and if he's not playing, then you're not going to play if you know him. So because of that, even if Jordan like had considered it, which I don't know if he did, I don't think he has a too healthy of a relationship with the government either. But I don't think they would. So that's pretty much what I expected from them. I expect them to hit their way out of the pool and hopefully scrounge together a couple like openers and relief games. I don't expect them to go far after that, though.
Yeah, and I know people kind of dreamed on, well, if they can get Cuban Americans, they could have Nestor Cortez and Alek Manoah and stuff like that, and that never really seemed like it was going to happen. But yeah, I think, like you said, the pool's pretty even. It's a lot of, I feel like every team is like C tier. Like, they could make some noise. They could go on a run if they start hitting, but also I don't think they measure up to the U.S. and Japan, and I don't think they really measure up to a team like Colombia or Venezuela either. I think and I think the one wild card in there is if Panama could somehow get George Springer to commit to them, that would be kind of a game changer. I don't think it's going to happen, but that would be really cool.
Yeah, I haven't heard any rumors about that. I think he is eligible for Panama because of his grandfather, but there are rumors that he's on the preliminary roster for Puerto Rico. So if he is added to the Puerto Rican team, I actually like that lineup a lot more than I did previously, because their next best outfielder is like barely a replacement player. Like, I'm not looking at the it's like I mean, Eddie Rosario had a horrible year this year.
So Eddie Rosario's always been kind of like extremely boom or bust. Like, either that dude is winning the World Series MVP and hitting like tons of dingers, or else he's just lost. It's like, dude,
I mean,
come on.
It's looking like Eddie Rosario, Kike Hernandez, and maybe like MJ Melendez in the outfield, who, I mean, I like MJ Melendez, but I don't know if he can even play outfield.
Is that an exciting one?
This reminded me of 2017 when they had like Beltran and Angel Pagan was pretty good and Raymond Fuentes. And it was like, wait a minute, there's something going on here. So I know you don't have all night, Shawn. So let's just jump into some other commitments. I know Garrett Stubbs committed to Israel recently.
Yes.
I'm going to shamelessly plug Gabriel Rincones told us he's going to play for England.
True.
What else? Oh, Matt Brash is in for Team Canada. What else has been going on? Remind me, because I'm sure I'm forgetting some others.
Matt Brash is huge. I really like the Garrett Stubbs one because I think he'll be one of their best hitters probably at this point.
Agreed.
And then, Gabe Rincones, congrats on having like the official commitment being on your podcast.
Did you mean being annoying enough to just say, can you say the word committed?
Oh, it was so funny. And when you said that, you were like, so would you use the word committed? And Tom just laughed at you.
He was such a nice guy too.
Well, I think it was like he was like, he knows, it's not really up to him like if he plays, but like, he wants to, and he said he would.
He was so nice, so down to earth. He just was like, yeah, sure, I'm in. Yeah, like committed.
Yeah.
Like I was really expecting to get like a PR kind of answer of like, well, I'd love to play if they're in, but we'll see with my health, so I'm really not sure yet. And he just was like, yeah. So I was like, great. Right. Anyway, sorry, I sidetracked you. But yeah, Rincones, Garrett Stubbs, Matt Brash. Is there anybody else that I'm forgetting about?
Yeah, so this was like a week ago, but Lars Nootbaar is a big one that people are really excited for. It's still kind of a little controversial because there's so many like good outfielders in Japan, but from all that I've seen, I think he's going to start probably in center field for them, especially because and another piece of news, Yuki Yanagita, who is one of the best like Japanese players ever, he's not going to be playing in the WBC for them, which is kind of a shock for a lot of people since he is one of the best players. But they said that I think he said that he's going to be focusing on his season with SoftBank. He did decline a lot in 2022, but it's still like one of those things that I don't know. Like I'm trying to think of a player in the U.S. like just after he starts declining, he just doesn't make the team. It's still shocking since he's one of the best players ever.
Sure, right. Yeah, absolutely.
But so there's one another rumor. Alec Thomas.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks guy, right?
Yes, Alec Thomas. He like posted on his Instagram story with like the Team Mexico like WBC photo with like a Mexico flag and the eyes. So he is eligible, and a lot of people think that he'll be playing for them, which would be pretty cool as well. He could start. I don't. It would either be him or who's their center fielder? Red Sox.
I think they've got Verdugo and Jaron Duran.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess both of them could be. So those are a couple big ones. Just kind of trying to fire them off.
Mark Vientos committed for Nicaragua, right?
Yo, that's a cool one. That's a really cool one because Nicaragua has a couple of MLB guys like Cheslor Cuthbert and Phillies legend JC Ramirez, and I think like one or two other names. But I like that Mark Vientos is not a Nicaraguan-born guy, and he should probably be good. But I also am wondering because I didn't know he was Nicaraguan. Obviously, he was Hispanic of some sort, but I know he's Nicaraguan. Yeah. There's got to be a couple other Nicaraguan guys floating around, right?
I think so.
It looked like Erasmo Ramirez committed too, according to Shawn.
Yes,
our source.
I don't know if I trust that source.
Yeah, true.
I wouldn't either.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead with your Mark.
Sometimes I look at that source and I say,
"Oh Jesus."
Yeah.
So go ahead with your Mark Vientos. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So Mark Vientos, I really like that one too because first of all, he's still really young, and you don't see many like prospects or like young players that are like actually going to be in the tournament because all of the clubs are like, no, you really should stay and play in our spring training to like make sure that you get a spot on the roster. So the fact that he's like, no, I'm going to go play for Nicaragua is so cool. Yeah, I love that.
Well, and you know what I like about it too is this reminded me of Jordan Romano in 2017 when he was like no big deal, played for Italy because Italy sort of had to scrape the bottom of the barrel a little bit to fill out their pitching staff. And now he blew up and now he's really good. And he was like, no, I'm going to stick with Italy. They gave me a shot. I'm familiar with that team. I'm going to stay there, even though Canada really wants him. I like that Nicaragua's. I don't know if they're doing that just for this. Like, I would assume Vientos is probably going to start. But I like that, let's say Vientos blows up and becomes an all-star. I like that the inroads are there for him to go, no, I'm not going to play for the U.S. or whoever else. I'm going to stick with Nicaragua because they gave me a shot,
I love that.
Yeah.
I really
That's
like
how
that.
you build the tournament, Because like
exactly
all of these guys who are in the major leagues, I feel like 95% of them are going to be American eligible, if not just 100% of them, because they live in the United States and play there. If some guy becomes a star and wants to play on the United States, like there's a pretty good chance he's going to be able to. But like if you get somebody like Vientos who decides that he's all in for Nicaragua, that's kind of the beginning of like the only way that a team like Nicaragua is ever going to be relevant. Yeah, because they don't have as advanced a baseball program as a place like even like Cuba, but like Dominican Republic and like Venezuela and like Puerto Rico and all. They have their own advanced baseball systems, and also these are like talent factories, so MLB is like pumping money down there to get guys out of it. Like I kind of feel like maybe MLB's not like throwing tons of money at Nicaragua, so this would be kind of a huge thing for them.
I would think so. Alex Blandino is the other name I was thinking of Nicaraguan guys. He's been bad in the big leagues, but he's a guy. Why not?
He's on the world stage, dude. Imagine him going up against Team China, Yeah.
So speaking of countries that aren't a baseball factory, and this one's a bummer, and I just found this out tonight, I'm assuming Liam Hendricks will not be playing any sort of baseball for a while because he has non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's terrible for Liam Hendricks and terrible for the White Sox, but because we're talking World Baseball Classic, that's really bad for Team Australia because he's their only star, So now, not that a reliever was going to make the difference really, but it would have been really cool. So I don't know. What do you think of Team Australia now? I think the only MLB names would be like Aaron Whitefield, who got a cup of coffee, and Alex Wells and Lewis Thorpe, maybe,
and Curtis Mead.
Yeah, I feel like this.
Who's not even MLB? He's AAA, I guess. AA.
Dude, Curtis Mead's going to be
silver
awesome.
lining for something like this is I think it gives Curtis Mead the opportunity to step up and be like Australia's guy in this tournament because right now they don't have a guy anymore.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's going to be their guy. It's such sad news for Liam Hendricks.
Where do you have Australia in the power rankings? Oh, third to last.
I think I was about to say, I think I have them like 18th or 19th.
You have them 18th or 19th. You have them 18th before Liam Hendricks is out.
Does that move them down? I mean, nobody's going to be below China, right? But does that move them below the Czech Republic for you off the top of your head?
I can't put anybody below China until they actually show that they're in this tournament.
Right.
But maybe. I mean, Czech Republic still, it's made up of players that, I just feel like the Australian League's more established. So even without, it's like what you said, Ethan, without one relief pitcher, he's fantastic, but I don't think that's going to make the biggest difference since he'd only pitch a couple innings every couple days. But,
and they probably have to have a lead or else, he doesn't matter anyway.
You
could put Liam Hendricks in and he strikes out the side in like a 19-0 game and it's like, oh, cool.
It's really a bummer because Australia's only ever had a couple of real stars at MLB, and like David Nielsen was around before the World Baseball Classic. Grant Balfour never played. I don't know why, but I don't think he ever played in the World Baseball Classic. And then Liam Hendricks was always on and off the roster bubble, so he was always going to spring training. And now he's finally an all-star. He finally can tell the team he wants to do whatever he wants, and it's just a kick. It's just the worst. But
I think the only thing that keeps the Czech Republic probably below them is I think the Czech Republic has like one guy with minor league experience.
Well, they have Eric Sogard.
Okay, so they got Sogard and they got that catcher who I think was in the Orioles system.
Yeah, I think they have a couple of guys who have like minors experience. Maybe I could be wrong, but there's got to be a couple of Czech guys floating around that they can get, right? Because I thought maybe they would do the whole we're homegrown, we made it homegrown, we're gonna do that. But then when they brought in Eric Sogard, I was like, okay, well then they're open to the idea. So if they could get like a Jack Leiter or somebody who's of Czech descent,
that would be awesome. I talked to a couple guys that are connected with the Czech team on Twitter, and they don't seem to think there are many more MLB players, MLB affiliated players that will be on the team. So maybe for the next round, like maybe the next WBC, I don't think for this one we'll see many more.
Yeah, it seems like unfortunately maybe it's not really unfortunate because they had a genuine fairy tale story against Spain.
Oh yeah.
That's one of the greatest games I ever watched. Their pitcher, I don't remember his name, but he's out there throwing like 72-mile-an-hour fastballs, just flummoxing these Spanish guys.
Then drives home late at night, has to make it to his day job the next morning.
Yeah, he's exactly. Gonna go work at like Amazon,
Yeah,
dude, it was
it's
amazing,
awesome.
and like, they're unfortunately, or maybe just fortunately, their Cinderella story's probably over. I don't see them beating anybody. Like they're probably not going to play China, right?
They could beat China if they were in the same.
Are they in the same pool with China?
Yeah, it's Korea and Japan who are the easy top two, and then it's Australia, China, Czech Republic. So all three of those teams
can probably
are
beat China.
For me.
Does China have any players other than like Bruce Chen?
Didn't they announce one guy? I remember you broke the news that there was one guy.
They have one guy. Let me look up his name. He's from the NPB, I believe.
That's a good league. That's not insignificant.
Yeah, that's not.
That is a league. Actually, I lied. He's in the KBO. His name is Ju Kwan.
Still good.
Yeah, he probably hits nukes if he's in KBO.
Yeah, except he's a pitcher. So
he probably gives up nukes if he's in KBO.
Probably still hits nukes as a pitcher. But
maybe.
I'm going to have to go in a second, but if you don't mind, I'll just riddle off a couple other pieces of news I was able to scroll back on my Twitter for.
Yeah, speed round. Let's go.
Speed WBC news. So for Wilson Contreras, he has been asked by the Cardinals not to play, and so he's not going to be playing most likely. It's like 95% sure he won't be playing for Venezuela, which is a huge loss because he's probably going to be the DH or swap off with Salvi for catcher. So I hate when this happens where players are told by their teams or asked by their teams not to play. But if there was ever, I guess, a time for that to happen, it would be a catcher that has to like learn a whole new pitching staff. So it makes sense. It's still a super big bummer.
Yeah, as a if you were a Cardinals fan, you'd be like, well, yeah, that's what you should do. As a World Baseball Classic fan, you're like, damn it,
it's the worst.
Yeah.
But so speed round.
Rapid fire. We won't interrupt. We'll try not to.
No, sorry. You're good. You can interrupt if you want. So Starling Marte, I don't know if y'all saw this. There were like reports everywhere, even on like ESPN sources. I think ESPN Deportes, that he was not going to be playing because of his injury. And then he reposted that picture on his Instagram story and was like, LOL, actually, I don't know what that is. I'm playing. So I don't know what's going on with the Dominican Republic, but Nelson Cruz was like, yeah, he's probably not going to play. And then he was like, I'm playing. So who knows what's true or not, but
now I just need Harrison Bader to say the same thing.
True.
Yeah, exactly.
True.
Team Korea, they released their preliminary roster. They went above and beyond because only the 50-man is due right now, but they went all the way down to 30. A couple names that people will know, like MLB fans: Tommy Edman and Ha-Sung Kim, Ji-Man Choi,
the G-Man.
Kwon Hyun Kim will be probably their ace. And then the best Korean player, he won the MVP, and he'll be in the MLB probably 2024. His name is Lee Jung-hoo. He's the center fielder. He's going to be their star player. So we'll have to watch out for him for sure. And then last couple, actually, I think that's pretty much it. Other than that, it's Cuba's roster. The last thing I did want to say, I posted a thread on this late last night because it took me forever to type it all up. But a lot of rules have changed to the rosters, it's been so confusing because it was the 50-man, and then on Friday the 35-man preliminary roster was due, and then the MLB was like, actually, there are a lot of delays in this process, so we're just gonna get rid of the 35-man, go back to the 50-man, and then on February 7th, the final, the official 30-man roster is going to be due. So 30 men. There's going to be 8 additional players on a list of pitchers, like a taxi squad. And before the tournament starts, 2 of those pitchers will be selected for being able to substitute those players. So that's, I think, why we've seen about 32 or 33 players be committed or announced for Team USA is because because of those additional pitchers. But I mean, it's so annoying because none of this stuff is public. I had to ask people internally, beat writers for different countries or different teams. So
this is what
hopefully it all stays now.
You know,
it's the worst, man. It's the worst. Well, Shawn, thanks for coming on and sharing all this with us.
Thank you.
I know we've taken up too much of your night. So thanks again, man, and let's do it again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I love coming on, so we'll do it again for sure.
All right, thanks, dude. Take it easy.
See you, Shawn.
See you guys. Bye.
Shawn, thanks again so much for coming on the show. It was a blast talking, and we'll definitely have you on again. Shawn will be a recurring guest leading up to the WBC, and we'll keep talking about it. And
honestly, hopefully after that too.
Yeah,
I would love to just have Shawn on.
Yeah, he's
all
awesome.
the time.
He's awesome. Well, ready? I would like to have Shawn be the third host of this show. So why doesn't everybody go?
Wait. Yeah, say that again.
I would like to have Shawn be the third host of this show. Let's have everybody go bother him on social media and tell him to join the ever-growing baseball podcast. But anyway, we had a blast talking to you, Shawn. Thanks for coming on. And we'll make sure to have you on again soon to talk more WBC. Anything you want to get out there, Tom, before we wrap it up?
Couple of things. One, I want to throw this out there because I'm passionate about this. I like hats and stuff, cool. Teams, I mean, most of the teams haven't really put out any merch yet, but like the one team that really doesn't have any excuse, one, for how terrible their stuff is, and two, for how like it's really not available unless you like buy the stuff from the last World Baseball Classic. The United States has one of the worst uniforms in the whole tournament.
Yeah,
and it's like, guys, come on. Like, I've been referring to it as randomly generated. It's like,
it looks like, what it looks like? It looks like when you go on MLB The Show and you go into Diamond Dynasty for the first time and you create your team and you pick the colors and it just gives you the automatic thing where you pick like red, white, and blue, and it just shows up the sleeves are one color and the body of the jersey is another color, and it has like weird piping. Like, that's what it looks like. Like, it looks like somebody just threw it together and didn't actually make it a real uniform.
Yeah, I don't really think the logo's that good.
No, it's not good at all.
I've seen like Baseballism is a site that they sell their own merch and they have hats that are like American flag themed and they're all better than the U.S. team stuff. Like, my buddy was sending them to me and I was like, how is this website better than the U.S. baseball team at coming up with America themed stuff? Like,
it's the worst. It's the worst. I don't understand what they're doing. Right. But I mean, that just speaks to the larger issue of like marketing. Nobody knows how to market the World Baseball Classic, or really MLB in general, but nobody knows how to market the World Baseball Classic. Nobody seems to care to market the World Baseball Classic. Like, Shawn's the biggest guy out there talking World Baseball Classic. Like,
he doesn't work for anybody.
Yeah, I'm really glad that he's like grown it this much, but like, that shouldn't be the case. Like, that's inexcusable that just some guy in Colorado decided to do it. And now is like cornered the market. Like, MLB should, like, are you telling me they can't afford to pay one guy and make it his full-time job to just they could just pay Shawn. They could literally just go, hey, Shawn, we're going to pay you $50,000 a year. You gather all the information, tweet it. That's it. That's the job. Like, he's already doing that. It's
MLB, get on it. I'm not saying do this because we said so, but if you didn't do it, then I would probably say,
how much more betrayal can I take?
That's exactly what I would say.
Though. Like I'm a huge MLB The Show fan. I love it. I mean, it's dead right now, but it's a great game. And
what are you gonna do?
That's what they do. Like, they a couple of different times, but they started off. There was this guy on YouTube who, it was called MLB The Show Tips. That was like his channel, and this was like 2016 or something. And he would just make videos like every week of being like, here's the players that I think their card is going to go up in price, and here's who you should invest in, whatever. And then they just offered him a job. Like, they gave him a salary, they moved him out to San Diego, and now he's like their lead content guy. And they do that like with a couple of people. Like, they'll find people who like have a really good fan base, who play the game and who really know what they're talking about and who have good ideas on how to like grow the community. And they offer them jobs, and now they work for San Diego studios and they're part of the game. Why is MLB not doing that? You know what I mean? Like, why is World Baseball Classic or the WBSC or whatever not finding the Shawns of the world and going, hey, well, even like part-time, just going, hey, we want to make you part of this because you already have all the skills. And
there's a drive in a deep left field by Castellanos. It will be a home run.
I think you blew your load early
that'll
on
make
that
it a
one.
4-0
You could have timed it better.
Well, I had to save it for the middle of a rant,
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, it's
that will be a mainstay, by the way. Whenever we're talking about anything where somebody's going off, it might be like, hey, listen, we're really sad to report, that Vin Scully, he didn't make it.
As there's a drive in a deep left field by Costa.
So
yeah, it's anyway. Look, we should wrap it up. I want to go eat. But
two quick things. I do want to throw these out. One, on the drip thing, my pick for finest drip of the World Baseball Classic, and I don't think it's controversial right now, is, again, for the second year in a row, arguably for every single time the tournament's ever happened, Samurai Japan. Again, the best drip. They sent out Ohtani, and Ohtani looks like a superhero in their uniform.
Yeah, he looks good. He looks good. I really like Australia's stuff, though. I think the green and the gold is really clean. Good stuff. The hat is really nice. I know it changes year to year for every team, so I don't know what it's going to look like. But in the past, they've had really good uniforms.
Yeah, the Australia is a top contender. I've been on the lookout.
I think the Netherlands too, because orange and black is a really good scheme.
Yeah, I've been on the lookout for some.
And they have that hat with the crown that looks really good.
Yeah, they have an actual logo, unlike the United States. I've been on the lookout for Czech Republic stuff, so I found some, but they only ship to, obviously, the Czech Republic and also Slovakia. They're the same country. The last thing that I want to mention is I obviously work for Victus Sports, and I was speaking with one of the founders, and he has indicated to me that him and his other founder, my boys Ryan and Jared, would be willing to come on the podcast. So that's one of the things that hopefully we can get on the docket soon.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. That's a really cool interview. We've got some things in the works. I don't want to give out the names of some of the people that I've been talking to, because I just DM'd them on Twitter out of nowhere, and I wouldn't blame them if they backed out. So,
right. Barry Bonds, you know.
Yeah. You have a real relationship with these guys, and I'm assuming they're not going to bail on you. So, so that's fine. But we've got some things in the works, because let's be real, people don't want to listen to just the two of us. So if we have on interesting people might stick around and listen.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, people, we come on and it's just us, and they say,
oh, Jesus.
And then they say,
not that there's anything wrong with that.
But, anyways, so listen, we're going to be, I'm going to be abusing the soundboard going forward again. If you have any sounds that you think I should mash, such as.
No, you got to stop the mashing, man.
If you have any sounds.
Ready? Tweet at us or email us. Who's right? Mashing or no?
Yeah,
or
settle
no
the debate. Can you put out a poll?
Team mash, to mash or not to mash.
Yeah.
So anyway, that'll do it for this episode of the Baseball Podcast. Huge thanks again to Shawn Spradling for coming on, and stay tuned for some more great World Baseball Classic stuff.
And stay tuned for a watch party. Also, we are working on how we're going to do that, and we're really hoping that we can do that, and you guys can send us chats and be like, yo, you guys are rooting for the wrong team, and then we might say. So, anyway, this has been the Baseball Podcast, guys. Thanks for listening. Shawn, thanks for coming on once again. And we will catch you guys on the next one.